we see what a global figure and beyond a basketball player Kobe Bryant was, Chris.
I mean, just the guy will go down as one of the greatest ever to play. I mean, there's no doubt about it. You know, I was in church yesterday when I got the alert from ESPN on my watch, and I looked down and it said breaking news: Kobe Bryant dies in helicopter crash. And I was just kind of sitting here like, no, there's no way. Like, this is a fake report. Somehow got released. Yeah. Somehow got past the
Hawaii's under a nuclear attack type of thing.
Exactly. And gave it about 5 more minutes, and sure enough, I got a couple more reports, and that's when I was kind of like, wow. It was jaw dropping. It was heart sinking. Kind of just kind of hits you in the face out of nowhere. Just one of those gut punching, emotion filled type thing that happened. Bryant was a legend on and off of court, already establishing himself as more than just a basketball player when he retired. Just getting started into things. You saw how involved he was with his daughter playing basketball. Yeah. Just the everything that there was on the post NBA life, he was just getting started into, and it's just very unfortunate that it just has to come to an end this way.
Steven, such a big ripple effect for a basketball player, right?
It's insane, and he touched so many people. Now, Tim, you and I are close in age, and we grew up in the Michael Jordan era. It was a tail end of, Bird and Magic, which was a great rivalry for the league. But we grew up wanting to be like Mike. At least I know I did. And he was not on my favorite team. I was a Warrior fan. But he was one of those players, like Kobe, that you still had to pay attention to. And you still had to watch. And, we've seen this only a couple times in sports. I say Jordan. I say Tiger Woods. And I say Kobe Bryant, at least in my lifetime that I have seen, that affect people across a wide range. And just everybody from everywhere knew those three guys. And, just kind of how Jordan did for my generation, for the following generation, Kobe did for the NBA, and for just bringing more and more fans to the table, whereas they may not have been there. And you touched on it already, Tim, about being a global icon. Now, Jordan became a global brand more so after he retired. Not to say that he wasn't, but during Kobe's playing time, he had the benefits of social media and the benefits of this media cycle that
starting up then.
Yeah, and so he was still winning championships when that was all getting started. Whereas, Jordan didn't have those benefits of Twitter and things like that. And, just see what he's been doing after his career it's amazing. Not only did he have, he had a 20-year-long NBA career with one team, which is unbelievable, especially in today's sports world. Kind of think maybe Derek Jeter, and that might be the only other two comparable. But and just to see what he's been doing post-play has been phenomenal. And, Kobe's gashed the Warriors, my team, his entire career. In fact, I think he played the best against the Warriors.
For some reason.
51-16 all-time career record versus Golden State. And we can talk more about those games, but just...
That's about some of Golden State's issues.
but he brought it. And he brought it every game against every team. And every time he touched the floor, he didn't take any plays off.
Kobe was, as you noted, such a big figure for the Lakers that, maybe he's polarizing in a fan way, for some folks. Some folks are like, oh, he's not really that good. And I was always the guy that played him in between. Kobe could be a little polarizing. And somehow I always ended up staying in the middle, as I'm so good at. On the polar opposite ends of Kobe fandom. You either were obsessed with him or you somewhat loathed him, detested him as a fan. If he wasn't on your team putting up 60, and I'm saying, exactly. But I would always have to bring some Bay Area fans back, some Warrior fans back. He's not that good. He's not the greatest. But
he is.
He really is. Dislike him if you may, because he's in a different uniform, killing us. And I was never in that. I was never the fan camp for Kobe. I was never in the hater camp either. Again, just sort of in that middle there, just sort of appreciating who he was. I would hate him in moments. I'd hate him on certain nights. I'd hate him when I would turn my fandom during the bad Warrior years to, well, you know what? I'm rooting for the Kings in this postseason. I'd hate them on those nights, things like that would get to you after a while. But hands down, he's one of the top 3 players in NBA history. We can do that little debate, him, Jordan, MJ, whatever. But without that debate, he's top 3. It's there. It's done. You know what I'm saying? He probably goes down as the greatest Laker of all time, especially with what you noted, Stephen, the longevity of the career in 20 seasons there. Kareem got there after his Milwaukee years, and Magic, unfortunately, had to step away and then come back. And so really, and Shaq came there after Orlando. Wilt is there later in his career after his Warrior days. Sixers. And it's just, it is him of one of the most iconic franchises of all time. That's the dude that you point to on the wall. Magic's running a real close second, strangely. And then to have him pass away at age 41 in a helicopter crash suddenly is the jarring aspect of it all for all those loving fans of his. And I think that's the part that's hitting me is even if I was never all about Kobe, I was never a fan, never owned a jersey or any of that. He was on the opposite side of the Warriors. It was like a guy I went to college with, Larry Hughes, somebody I've hung out with a bit before, had his best game of his career against Kobe one night in some of those bad Warrior years. And, I got extreme joy out of that. Take that, all you Kobe lovers. But it was never out of disrespect. It was always with extreme acknowledgement of what Kobe was offensive and defensively to his team, to that fan base, to the market of Los Angeles, how much he meant there. And I think that's the part that's jarring me a little bit is I'm seeing all these people I'm really close with who are pretty emotionally hurt by this. They're hurting, I'm trying to picture what's the equivalent. If it's Tim Brown dying in a car crash like this, Tim Hardaway dying in a helicopter crash like this, I'm trying to put that comparison of, Ozzie Smith or somebody I was locked into in an extreme way as a fan. And I picture how much that would hurt. And I think that's what's hitting me is these two extremes of Kobe. And we'll get more into, say, some of the other sides of Kobe that others have brought up, maybe not in the most timely nature. So I'm going to try to touch on them in the most genteel, timely nature. But the two extremes of Kobe in his love, much less the hate. We'll touch on the love first. The love was his fans, all those Laker fans, all those Just Kobe fans who are mourning in some pain right now of somebody that they watched, of all these young basketball players I know that are like, oh, I molded my game after Kobe, and they are just broken right now. To that global stage that he was, that across the world right now, and especially in myself with my connection to Italy, Sicily right now, they're kind of hit hard a little bit by it with his dad playing in Italy, him growing up there at one point. That's strangely not strangely, it makes sense that those are one of the global places that's kind of feeling this right now too, due to that connection through his dad. So it's the whole spectrum that makes you understand why there'd be this kind of reaction to his death. The loving fans that I'm seeing in pain right now, that are our friends, the people that you and we all know going through this mourning right now of somebody they loved, and then seeing his loss affecting so much on a global aspect. You see this whole spectrum far and wide from local to global of how Kobe affected everyone.
I was trying to think this morning, the dust is starting to kind of settle from the news, and we're starting to see more and more pieces of what actually went down. Mm-hmm. I mean, maybe another show we can get into irresponsible reporting of going on all day yesterday. But I was trying to think in my mind, in my lifetime, deaths that hit on a global stage like this. Princess Diana.
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to compare these two. I'm just trying to the emotion that I'm witnessing.
But let's not kid each other. They were rock stars.
They were.
Her, John Lennon. I mean,
yeah. Our generation, I would say Tupac Shakur.
Oh yeah.
But that didn't affect the older generation.
True.
like actually Kobe, because
he wasn't
even
quite as global. Yeah.
Yeah. Even my grandfather was talking to me yesterday about Kobe and trying to see if he could one up me on the breaking news. And Michael Jackson. You know, and just to see and I'm only making the comparison of the emotion and the raw emotion that you're seeing across the board. And this hit, I think, even harder because of his age and just because of his still in the public eye.
Yes, you're right. Yeah.
Whereas, Jackson wasn't still really in the public eye as much. Yeah. It wasn't like he was releasing albums. Kobe was supposed to be, was he at the award show last night?
Yeah.
And just and plus finding out about his daughter, like it's just that to me really hit me really hard yesterday. Just because I'm a father, I have a son and I have a daughter, and just to see how his relationship with his middle daughter Gianna Marie has really kind of been in the spotlight this NBA season, because she's taken a more serious interest in what her dad did, and just to kind of see her come to like a realization of what her dad meant to so many people and how she wanted to emulate him. And he talked about it on Kimmel not that long ago. People would come up to both of them and say, Kobe, are you going to try to have a son to carry on your legacy? And, he, big smile on his face, says, Gigi replies, I got this.
Yeah.
And that's huge. Yeah. That's huge for any parent, but especially a father of a daughter, to have a daughter want to emulate you and follow in your footsteps that closely is it's touching.
Chris, your thoughts on that whole spectrum of, in the large sense of how he affects things globally, to even the most small world of it too, of just those of us around us, the everyday folks you and I interact with, reeling from it.
I mean, he had an impact on everyone. I mean, more than just the basketball world. It was, like you said, it was globally. It was in any sports market. And numerous players in different sports showing their, mourning and concern and support to the Bryant family. And just the impact he had playing on and off the court. It's a shame. It really is. He did so much for the game. And he was just getting started on his way to do so much more.
Yeah, the philanthropic work was really starting to bud for him, yeah.
Exactly. He was just getting in the groove of things, almost like, he kind of reminds me of a Derek Jeter, like Steven was noting on, and, just having that dynamic, that solidified, presence of the game, like, hey, like, I'm the man of the game. You know me as, the superstar. And that's what it was. I mean, everyone knows him growing up, at least for me, since you guys are a little bit older than me. It was, wad up a paper ball, shoot it in the trash can, you're yelling Kobe.
Thanks, Dave Chappelle.
Yeah, exactly. Kobe.
And that's going to live on without a doubt forever and ever because of this loss.
Now, Kobe had a time period in his life, whether it be for being on the basketball court or some friction in a locker room or a legal issue that he came into that has still affected how people feel about him now, even in death, to where they're respecting him, they're honoring him, but there is that sort of in the room. I'm the type on this show all the time, walk right in, point out the elephant in the room. I'm going to gently walk in this time, sit down, have a sip of my water, and say, so should we talk about the elephant now, or when's the time to mention the elephant? Whisper to everyone in the room. Because that elephant's there, but we're not going to charge him out this time. We're not going to make a big scene about him being there, but he's there. And you can't talk about the complete story of Kobe Bryant without mentioning it a bit. It's reminiscent, for me, of Al Davis passing away. Al's a great. Al built the AFL
revolutionary
into what it is, much less the Raiders. But Al had his flaws, especially late in life. Some of those came out. And so, but when Al passed away, it was still all about, everybody sort of put that away and honored the greatness that he was and what he did for the game of football, for the Oakland Raiders, Los Angeles Raiders. And everybody kind of put that away for a second. We're kind of doing the same with Kobe, but I was always in the middle again on the legal issues with him. It never came off as, to me, oh, this is one of those athletes taking advantage of a celebrity, misbehaving. He did this. He needs to pay for this. It never came off to me completely either. Oh, this is somebody trying to money grab out of a celebrity, a huge star. I never really knew what to do with that story. Just to be completely honest with you, I never really knew where to go with that. If it was the powerful, rich celebrity getting off, if it was somebody trying to frame him on a money grab. I just never really knew what to do with that story. How do you try to compartmentalize that particular story in Kobe's legacy?
You know, there were a lot of details that have come out in the years since all of that went down. That kind of, I'm a little bit with you. I'm a little bit in the middle.
Yeah.
I may be a little bit more. I don't want to really like bring up the details that I recall from this, but the accuser, and I don't like to ever talk about a victim in any situation.
Amen. I understand.
But she might not have had the best intentions, and she might not have been conducting herself in the best way that evening of when all this went down. That being said, it's no secret that professional athletes travel from city to city. They may or may not make mistakes.
Sure.
On a nightly given basis. Now, I do believe that you saw a change in Kobe.
Yeah.
You saw a change in him. This was kind of where he took the big step of being a kid to a man, in my opinion. So you saw him change his number. You saw him rebrand himself. You saw him come back with a focus that he had, but this kind of was seen different. He almost seemed like he was out with a vengeance at that point, whereas before he was driven, he was motivated, you could see it, but now he was almost angry to prove people that that's not who he was.
He was out to win that case on the floor. Yeah.
On the floor. Yeah. And, Vanessa found it in her heart to forgive him. Yeah, right, it was a $4 million rock that did it. You can take that for what it is, but maybe that's just how sorry he was for making a mistake.
Sure.
We all make mistakes. I know that when I pass, there will be people that will bring up stuff from my past that I'm not particularly proud of, but he didn't let that define him. And right. He decided, you know what, I'm going to change this narrative myself, and I'm going to define myself moving forward. And, I was a freshman in high school when he and Iverson came into the league. And that was at the height of my basketball. I mean, I was dunking. Like, I wanted to be, I wanted to make it to the league. And I mean, I don't know too many 6'2" tall white guys that were dunking, at least not at my school. So, I wanted to be like them. And they kind of gave me motivation to push and push and push and push. And then seeing Kobe go through those, it also, none of us are perfect. We're all going to make some mistakes. But what came out of that is how he got back from it. And how a lot of people, it shouldn't be forgotten, but a lot of people kind of did forget about it while he was still on the floor.
We're open to hearing the opinion of those who still maybe have trouble remembering the greatness of Kobe because of this. Again, hit me up on Twitter at TimmyFitz76. But it was a time pre-Me Too, and we've seen Hollywood have its reckoning, music industry a little bit, athletes and the sports world a little bit as well. So it's tough to figure out where to place this, and it was tough for me then to know what my opinion was, and it really hasn't changed on who was in the wrong on this, especially with the legal outcome of it. But there's always that lingering item over the top of it. Well, is this a wealthy athlete getting off? Was this someone trying to money grab at the wealthy athlete? People are going to fall on either side of that. Well, I was in the middle, and that's where I am personally with this. That's why it's just kind of there without me being able to truly form an opinion of praise or condemnation at this stage after his passing in what will frame as his legacy. So again, I'm open to hearing about maybe why you have trouble honoring him this way or feeling a sense of respect after his passing due to that. Please contact us. Hit me up at TimmyFitz76 for reasons you maybe like to hear vocalized on why you're having trouble feeling like everybody else of remembering Kobe for the beyond being a great basketball player and the global icon and the philanthropist he was becoming. Well, welcome to hear that feedback again at TimmyFitz76 on Twitter. There was even times where he created a little friction as a teammate. remember him and Shaq not getting along for a while there, you know? Now some of that's on Shaq. Shaq, we've learned, has had sensitive moments with Penny as well, Penny Hardaway, and then Kobe and things like that. They got into a little rap feud for a minute. I mean,
Yeah.
remember that
Legendary moment.
Stuff I can't play on the air right now about Shaq asking Kobe how he tastes, but that was posterior taste. So there was that moment. There was stories that it was hard to get free agents in Kobe's last few years because of, you know, his the way he had control over the franchise a little bit, how his opinion mattered more than anything. The free agents didn't want to come there while he was still there, but we saw this grand spike in the television ratings when he was healthy and playing that I'm sure the Lakers just could not ignore. They're like, no, we'll roll with it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, oh my God, our ratings go up 28% when he's in. Oh boy, I think we need to stick with it. And that's on the low. That's the average. Like there would be huge spikes of when he would play. As you know, he's coming back. It would be visible during the time of that Achilles injury or some of the other late career injuries that happen to everybody in your late 30s, mid 30s. When he'd be out, the ratings would drop, and then the Lakers could really see it there in their numbers. Like, holy crap, do our ratings change when he's in?
Not just the ratings, but the team entirely.
And win-losses, absolutely. Win-loss for sure, and that gets people in the door. But though, when those TV ratings in Los Angeles, that number 2 television market in the country, spike that hard, that is a big revenue spike, and sponsors line up knowing that you're bringing Kobe back even, you know, in those later years where some other free agents may have gotten turned away. But, you know, those are just little sort of specks in the timeline, unlike the larger one we just talked about. Those things happen. I remember, God, see clips of Dan Fouts and Kellen Winslow getting on a fight on the sideline. Those two love each other. And, you know, Kobe and Shaq are fine today. And some of those things just kind of happen. But nonetheless, at least, you know, some of that was part of his drive. The things that made him great, that double-edged sword, that comes with everybody. Like Steph Curry, okay, shoot. That's what's he's going to shoot from downtown, and that's what's going to power him. If it's an off night or they're collapsing and double teaming on him, well, that's the sword you're going to die by too, that double-edged sword. You know, Kobe, like you talked about, Stephen, did in his later career really develop that killer instinct that we saw MJ have, that it took LeBron about 7-8 years to get to. You know, but he still will take a last shot now. There was about a 6-7 year time period where he was deferring for a minute there. Now he's like, yes, I'll take that last shot. For the past 8 years, he's the split of his career. There was a time when that wasn't necessarily Kobe either. It was dump it into Shaq and then kick it out. Maybe Robert Horry takes the game winner against the Spurs. Things like that would happen. Then it became the Kobe show. And he had that killer instinct that MJ had, that need to compete, maybe without the gambling problem. but he really filled that gap of being the next explosive highlight reel big guard that would just make people's jaws drop as a player. But there was a bit of a double-edged sword with him. That hyper-competitiveness had some frictional moments in the locker room, but sometimes that happens to the greats. Your thoughts on that, Chris?
No, without a doubt. I mean, there's always going to be tension, whether, you know, you're a good player, you're a bad player, or whatever it may be. You know, it's all that testosterone in the locker rooms, you know, the egos, all that. Not saying Kobe had an ego by any means, but just, you know, you're going to get into some...
He did. That's okay.
You're going to get into some friction. You're going to get some heated arguments, conversations with teammates, front office, whatever it may be. And Kobe did have control when he was there as a Laker. Yeah. You know, it was the Kobe Bryant show, just kind of like when LeBron's on a team, you know, it's the LeBron show. So Kobe had that same kind of, you know, presence to him. And I feel like Kobe was a lot more subtle in his, I guess you could say, superior power as the one on the team compared to, say, LeBron, where LeBron's, you know, got the spotlight on him 100% of the time. And I feel like even when LeBron moved to Miami, in a way, it kind of took a spotlight off of Kobe, because the Lakers wouldn't necessarily, after those championship seasons in 09 and 010, they kind of fell off the ranks a little bit.
Yeah, as he aged, Gasol aged that bad.
Exactly. And so they weren't the same team. They tried to bring in Steve Nash and, you know, Dwight Howard and all that. We all saw how that went. Yeah. But I feel like it kind of took the spotlight off of him, and like like he was doing for pretty much his entire career, kind of proving the critics, the doubters, like, hey, I'm still here. I'm still doing my thing. You know, you guys can pay attention to LeBron and Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh in Miami, but I'm still going to put up, 25, 30 points a night, and you guys can overlook me by any means. And so with that being said, I mean, the teammates you saw, Matt Barnes and all these other players, Kobe called him out in practice. There's that video of him just calling him. We can't say it on the air, but just calling him a bunch of names during practice. I mean, he wanted he was that teammate. He wanted the best out of you.
He was a killer in practice.
Exactly. He was a competitive player. He had that killer Mamba mentality instinct, and that's what he's known for, and that's what he'll go down in history for.
Yeah, he wasn't necessarily like you'll hear LeBron say, "I'm trying to be a global icon." Kobe's wasn't necessarily trying for that at the time, and then it just kind of happened.
Exactly.
And so then he ran with it, in his post-playing career, went with it, knowing that he had that sort of platform. Does it reflect maybe, Stephen, like what you're talking about, Kobe, in comparison to Michael Jordan, came up in the 24-hour sports cable news cycle where, there's all these local ones now, and social media came about. There's a lot more websites to where we knew more about some of his locker room feuds, say, in comparison. Your thoughts on some of those moments he would have where he sort of ran that show for a while as the big gun for the Lakers.
He did. But what I appreciated about him as opposed to, say, a LeBron is it was behind closed doors.
Right.
And if it got out, it wasn't because he was calling out a teammate. It was because the teammate got upset and it got out.
Yeah.
Whereas we've seen LeBron on the podium have certain kind of veiled slights towards his locker room. And we didn't see that with Kobe. We didn't see that with Jordan. There's a very famous story of Jordan punching Steve Kerr at practice.
Yeah.
Like not like a light punch, punched him in his chest, almost knocked him down because Steve, wasn't performing to what Jordan had expectations of. And I think that comes, I think a lot of the friction around Kobe in the locker room and on the teams that he had comes from that drive.
Yeah.
It's a get on the train or get off and go home. And if you're not with me, you're not going to win. But if you're with me, there's a great chance we're going to win because I'm going to do everything I can to win. I worked for, I come from restaurants, and I worked for a chef and his wife back in the day, and I actually have a Kobe story that's actually connected to this chef and wife in kind of a roundabout way that I'll try to share later. But so the wife ran basically the show, chef ran the kitchen, and notoriously rough in the industry to work for because of the standard of expectations. Yeah. And she would literally tell you, this is how we do it. If you can't keep up or you can't perform this expectation, there's the door. And it was known around the industry, if you last 6 months, you're doing something, because nobody lasted 30 days.
Okay.
And I was told by many people, oh, you won't last 30 days. You won't last 6 months. I was there a year.
Okay.
Because I bought into the system, and I conformed to what they wanted, and what they wanted was the absolute best. And to me, that's kind of what Kobe wanted, the absolute best out of you. And he will put you in a position to win, like all great leaders should, is you're only as good as your weakest link, and he was going to make sure the weakest link on the team wasn't going to cost him anything. And if it did, there's the door.
Some moments I want to acknowledge on the Fitz Blitz, at least, of Kobe's career and interacting with the Warriors. There was that night that Larry Hughes went off on him. I was, of course, loving that one then. There's the Anton Jameson and Kobe each dishing out, dropping 51 in a game in December.
Incredible game.
December of 2000. Yeah, that was a good game between those two. The acknowledgments that happened around the league, teams were letting the 24-second clock expire in each of their first two possessions. And then in one game, Rubio, he let the 8-second clock expire, standing on the other side of half court, letting that expire. Just a couple of acknowledgments with Kobe's two numbers, the 8 and the 24. And, last night, Trae Young, the first player to have a 45-point double-double with under 25 field goal attempts against the Washington Wizards since Kobe Bryant on December 17th of 2006. And, yeah, that's that same year, December 9th, 2000 was that Anton Jameson and Kobe back and forth with the 51 points. I want to put one thing to bed here. People have talked about, why he was flying in a helicopter, that was rare, or, some conspiracies or things like that going on. So I'm just going to knock those down real quick. Kobe going to tell us a little bit about why he flies by helicopter.
After school activities, all that fun stuff, even on weekends. But then traffic started getting really, really bad, right? And I was sitting in traffic, and I wound up missing like a school play because I was sitting in traffic. And this thing just kept mounting. I had to figure out a way where I could still train and focus on the craft, but still not compromise family time. And so that's when I looked into helicopters and be able to get down and back in 15 minutes. And that's when it started. And so my routine was always the same. Weights early in the morning, kids to school, fly down, practice like crazy, do my extra work, media, everything I needed to do, fly back, get back in carpool line, pick the kids up. And my wife was like, listen, I can pick them up. I'm like, no. I want to do that because, you have road trips and times where you don't see your kids, man, So, every chance I get to see them and spend time with them, even if it's 20 minutes in the car, I want that.
Kobe talking about why he took to using the helicopter to get around big, sprawling, crowded, trafficy Los Angeles. And, that's, I don't know if that puts any conspiracies to rest about him and his very normal habit of helicopter flight, but I wanted to put that out there at least. But you see the motivation was more time with his kids, really. That's what it came down to for Kobe. The night before his passing, this one still hits me, just the fact that LeBron passes him on the all-time scoring list the night before. And LeBron had really some great anecdotal, some great stories about his time with Kobe that in the next morning, the next afternoon, after all this went down, just really hit me hard, really spoke to their relationship. I just wanted to share that here now, too.
We can just talk about the surpassing Kobe first. A lot of these guys who've been passing the list are, historical figures in the game. The fact that you played with Kobe, Team USA, against it for so many years and had that personal relationship, does that mean anything different just for this whole process?
It does. It does in the fact that, when I was a kid, when I was in high school, I was growing up through the ranks when Kobe came into the league. It was, it wasn't a dream of mine to come straight, from high school at that point in time to the NBA. But I was like, wow, 17-year-old, 18-year-old kid being able to make that leap, that's pretty damn cool. And as I started playing more ball and I went into high school, the things that he was doing on the floor, I, admired and wanted to be a part of. I went to ABCD camp. And he came and talked to all the kids that was there, and I happened to be one of the kids that was there, and I was just listening. I was just trying to soak everything up I could, and I remember one thing that he said. He was like, if you want to try to be, great at it, or want to be one of the greats, you got to put the work in. There's no substitution to work. And I was a 15-year-old kid at that camp. You can actually find the footage of him at that camp. And in 2001, I believe I was playing in New Jersey, and the All-Star game, if I'm not mistaken, and y'all can correct me, was in Philly, right? Yeah, that Saturday, me and Maverick drove to the Intercontinental downtown Philadelphia, and he gave me a pair of his shoes, which I ended up wearing that following night. It was the red, white, and blue Kobe's. I was a 15, and he was a 14, and I wore them anyways. And I sat and just talked to him for a little bit. He gave me the shoes. I rocked them in the game. And it was the same night that we played Oak Hill against Melo. And then I saw what he was able to do the very next night, winning MVP here in Philly. That following night. As I got drafted, I still just admired him. Seeing what he was able to accomplish, winning championships, having, being early in his career where, he learned from the misses that he had against the series against Utah, and he just used that as motivation and got better and better and better to him winning multiple championships, and continued to admire him throughout my high school rank. And then as competitors, just seeing the work ethic that he put into the game. He had zero flaws offensively, zero. You backed off of him, he could shoot the three. You body him up a little bit, he can go around you. He can shoot the mid-range, he can post, he can make free throws. He had zero flaws offensively. And that's something that I admired as well, just being at a point where the defense will always be at bay, where they couldn't guard you at all offensively, where you just felt like you was just immortal offensively because of your skill set and your work ethic. We take it down to 2008 where we become the Redeem team, and it was a dream come true for me to be able to line up alongside of him. Just admiring him for so many years, and seeing him from afar, and then being able to be in practices with him, and me watching and learning. So on. I mean, it's just too much. It's just too much. The story is just too much. It doesn't make sense. And just to make a long story short, now I'm here in the Lakers uniform in Philadelphia, where he's from, where one of the first time I ever met him, gave me his shoes. He won All-Star Weekend. It's surreal. It doesn't make no sense, but the universe just puts things in your life, and when you live in the right way, or you just giving everything to whatever you're doing, things happen organically, and it's not supposed to make sense, but it just happens. And I'm happy to be in any conversation with Kobe Bean Bryant, one of the all-time greatest basketball players to ever play, one of the all-time greatest Lakers. The man got 2 jerseys hanging up in Staples Center. It's just crazy.
That was the night before, guys. That almost sounds like LeBron giving a eulogy to his good friend Kobe Bryant. That's the night before, after passing him in the scoring record. Then this happens the next afternoon. Just even that is surreal. LeBron's talking about this experience that night before being surreal. Watching this now, the day after, seems surreal.
It is extremely surreal, and I had only heard bits and pieces of that interview. I hadn't heard it in its entirety, and hearing it now, it does sound a little bit like a eulogy. I have a buddy on Twitter who posted out a picture that he made just the night before, and it was kind of like a Kobe passing the ball to LeBron almost.
Right. Yeah, I saw those.
And it was eerie. And this gentleman on Twitter, his buddy was like, dude, that almost looks like a in memoriam. Mm-hmm. And he's like, I didn't even think about that. Mm-hmm. And then what happens, and you look back on things. When things happen suddenly like this, you look back on certain moments and you kind of think, wow, it just, there's an eerie kind of feeling around it. And it's not to suggest anything. It's what we do. We look back over moments in time of things that have happened when tragedy happens like this. And it happens in every walk of life.
Yeah, I totally have to agree. It's you could just tell, almost sounds like sorrow in LeBron's voice right there. Just almost like it was it was almost like he knew it was going to happen type thing. It's just so much emotions in his voice when he was talking, and you can tell that Kobe meant so much to him during that interview. What LeBron said. I mean, I didn't even know that story too. Going in, I mean, just hearing that whole story and just how he did it, how LeBron did it in Philly, where he got everything from Kobe. It gives you chills. It's almost chilling.
So that is our remembrance, our mourning, our grieving for Kobe Bryant here on the Fitz Blitz. Before we take a break, any final thoughts on what you want to say about his legacy?
Just a story real quick. Well, one, he dated Brandy, which broke my teenage heart back in the 90s.
Right.
Took her to prom. Let's not forget that. But real quick, so I was working at the aforementioned restaurant. It's called Katonia in San Francisco. Sunday night, we had closed kind of early, not early according to time, but we had gotten everybody out early. It's 10:30. Restaurant closed at 10. So I'm sending kitchen folks home. I'm sending servers home. Pasta tanks are shut down. The wood oven grill is, extinguished. And I'm at the front looking over reservations for the week coming up. And big black SUV comes up, and a gentleman gets out, and he comes in, and he's like, hey, are you guys still open? I was like, unfortunately, we're closed. And he looked at me, he's like, not even for Kobe Bryant? And I looked at him, I was like, I explained the situation. I was like, let me run to the back and see who's left here and see what I can do for you. Yeah. I came up and I checked off items on the menu of things that we could do right then. I was like, if he wants to wait, it takes about 30 minutes for the pasta tank to get to temp. We can restart the fire. We'll do it for you, but it's going to take some time. Yeah. He's like, let me go out and check with Kobe. So he goes out, And he comes back in. He's like, man, he's hungry now. He's like, they had the game. I was like, I know. You guys played the Warriors. I was like, he just torched us for 36. Because I had the updates on my phone.
You might try McDonald's.
Yeah, So this was in March 2013. And the Warriors actually won. It was 109 to 103, I believe. And he's like, this isn't going to work for us. I was like, if you like, I can try to make suggestions in the neighborhood. And he's like, nah, man, it's fine. And his driver was obviously like irritated. And as he walked away, I was like, I'm actually trying to do. My job's on the line for being open for somebody after we're already closed. And as the driver's walking away, I was like, hey, go Dubs.
That's one of those moments. I get this way with politicians. I think their handlers and campaign managers do far more damage for their image than the celebrity or the politician themselves. Final thoughts on this segment as we pay our homage to Kobe Bryant, Chris?
Just keep his legacy going. When you shoot that paper ball into the trash can, be sure to yell out, scream out Kobe, and keep wearing the jerseys, keep doing, everything that you can do in honoring him and remembering him as well.